And then moving on to Chelsea, it's been a bit of a hectic week again there. I mean, it seems to be every week, but it appears that both of the owners, well, the company Bowley, Clearlake and Bowley, want to buy each other out. Is this an unhealthy situation really for Chelsea trying to move forward?
Well, look, it's never good when you've got owners that are not aligned in terms of the strategic direction of an organisation, whether it's football or anything else. I think in terms of this situation, to end up in a where the spending levels are what they are, and the decisions being taken on a long-term basis, and the redevelopment cost that's required for the stadium, there's kind of no room for disagreement. They're going to have to be aligned because the checks they're going to have to write over the next few years are going to be enormous. There could be, could be £1 billion, could be £2 billion to redevelop Stamford Bridge if they were to rebuild the whole thing. One of the benefits that Chelsea has is that they sit within the premier part of London, Chelsea, and the land there is, incredibly expensive. But the flip side of that is that to redevelop it, you have a lot of extra costs that you wouldn't have in a cheaper part of the country. So, it's swings and roundabouts when it comes to stadium redevelopment. And the other aspect of it is I doubt that they'll find the local councils as accommodating as the Trafford Council for Manchester United. United Stadium is in a largely industrial zone of Trafford in Manchester, and they are welcomed with open arms by the Trafford Council. I doubt it's going to be the same for Chelsea in Chelsea and Kensington. So these are big projects that will need alignment from the shareholders because ultimately they'll have to write checks, and we'll have to see where it goes. Clearly, Clearlake have got the dominant position in terms of having 61% of the shares. And then you've got three individuals who have got 13% each. If they talk as one, as a 39% block, then clearly they've got quite a lot more power. But it's not a foregone conclusion how this pans out. And the sums that are required to buy each other out are still enormous, assuming that the valuation is broadly what they paid or a little bit more. These parties could need £2 to £3 billion to get rid of the other. And it's not that easy to raise those kind of numbers for a club that at the moment is losing £200 million a year at the operating level. So we'll have to see. I don't think it's easy to call exactly how it's going to pan out, but I would say that Clearlake, given the dominant position they have on the board in terms of 60% of the shareholding and the number of seats that they have, I would say that they're in the driving seat, but it's not a foregone conclusion how it ends.
Would you think that price the club's worth? I mean, obviously, a lot of people feel that they overpaid back then. But do you think the price has maybe gone down over the last couple of years, given that the club hasn't been performing as well on the pitch in that period of time?
Well, it's how long is a piece of string, and an asset is only worth what people are prepared to pay for it. I would say on a desktop basis, it's not obvious why it would have gone up in value. They have no Champions League. They've shown themselves to be, from a commercial perspective, quite reliant on Champions League. Really, when you look at it, I mean, to still not have a front of shirt sponsor 2 years after three departed. They had the short-term deal with Infinite Athlete last season, but to not have a long-term front of shirt sponsor is a terrible sign from a commercial perspective, given that is a property that's worth, done in the way that they would like, worth between probably 30 to 45 million pounds a year, which is a very significant amount of money in the context of a football club's profit and loss account. So you've got that issue. You've got the European issue. I mean, clearly, since they bought the business, it's harder to get into the Champions League because you've got some challenges. You've got Villa and you've got Newcastle and you've still got Spurs, Arsenal, City and Liverpool. And ultimately, 6 or 7 or even 8 doesn't go into 4. If you've not got that £100 million a year in Champions League revenue for a club like Chelsea, where they've got maybe 250 player amortization, and let's say even if they have reduced the wage bill, let's say £300 million wage bill, straight away you're losing money. I would say the value has gone down, but then I'm not an American private equity house looking to buy a football club, and I'm sure they would argue all day long that the value has gone up and they've done all sorts of positive things since they took over, and that they're well set for the future, and therefore they should have an enhanced valuation. But it's hard to see why.